The room is loud, but all you can hear is the soft shake in your own breath as someone finally looks at you like they really see you. Their face is calm, their voice is gentle, and for one strange second the world feels smaller, warmer, almost safe enough to stay in. That is the moment a lot of people think they want most, and yet it is also the moment some people feel the strongest need to run. Because sometimes the thing your heart has begged for your whole life is the very thing your nervous system learned to fear. Your eyes are on this video for a reason. Subscribe now and I'll show you what's really happening under the surface. Stay here. What feels confusing tonight may feel honest, real, and strangely freeing by the end of this video. This truth can change the way you see your own heart. Maybe you have met someone like this before. At first, they feel alive, warm, almost magnetic, like they have been waiting their whole life to be understood, and now they have finally found a place to land. They open up just enough to pull you close, then the second things become real. They go quiet, take longer to answer, or suddenly act like none of it mattered. You sit there staring at your phone, wondering how a person can want closeness so badly and then flinch the moment it arrives. Or maybe that person is you. Maybe you crave something deep and true, but when someone gets too close, your chest tightens. Your mind starts searching for problems, and even kindness feels a little dangerous. You tell yourself you need space, or more time, or that something is off, but deep down you know the fear is bigger than the moment in front of you. It feels confusing because one part of you wants to be held, and another part of you wants to disappear before anyone can touch the real story. This is where psychology becomes very human. A lot of people think fear of connection means someone is cold, careless, or broken, but most of the time it means their body learned a hard lesson long before they had words for it. Some people were taught that love can turn sharp without warning, that comfort can vanish, that being known can become a weakness someone uses against you later. So now even when something good appears, their system does not read it as safe first. It reads it as uncertain, and uncertain can feel like danger. That is why deep connection can feel less like a gift and more like standing on the edge of a cliff with your eyes open. Real closeness means someone may see your need, your longing, your grief, your shame, your hope, and maybe even the parts of you you work hardest to hide. For a person who survived by staying guarded, being seen is not just emotional. It feels physical, like stepping outside without armor after years of living in it. And when your body believes armor kept you alive, taking it off does not feel romantic. It feels reckless. Save this video. You will want to hear these words again when your heart starts blaming itself. Some truths only make sense when the room is quiet and your defenses are tired. Keep this close. It may help you feel more awake to what your pain has been trying to say. Think about what deep connection actually asks of you. It asks you to be present when someone notices the sadness behind your smile. It asks you to let them stay when you are not impressive, funny, useful, or in control. It asks you to believe that you can be loved without performing, fixing, pleasing, shrinking, or pretending, and for many people, that is not a small step. That is a complete rewrite of the rules they have used to survive. A child who grows up with steady love learns that closeness feels natural. But a child who grows up around mixed signals often learns something very different. They learn that attention can come with pressure, affection can come with guilt, and honesty can come with punishment. So later in life, the moment a relationship starts to feel deep, their old map lights up and says, slow down, hide more, do not trust this, do not need too much. What looks irrational from the outside can make complete sense when you realize it is an old protection wearing new clothes. This is why some people pull away right after a beautiful moment. A long talk, a kind touch, a look that feels true, a night where they feel deeply connected, and then the next day they act distant, dry, or strangely busy. It is not always because they lied in the moment. Sometimes the moment was real, but being moved that deeply wakes up fear they do not know how to carry. So they create distance, not because connection meant nothing, but because it meant too much too fast for the system they are living inside. You may see this in small everyday ways. They joke when things get serious. They change the subject when you ask what they feel. They keep people close enough for comfort, but not close enough to witness their full inner world. They may be wonderful in a crisis, easy to talk to in public, even deeply caring in action, but private emotional exposure still feels like standing under a bright light with nowhere to hide. And that fear can turn even healthy love into something their mind treats like a threat. Follow for more content like this. Your mind deserves language for the things you have felt, but could not explain. Truth becomes power when you can finally name it. Stay close. More honest clarity is coming. One reason deep connection feels so terrifying is that it can wake up buried shame. Not just fear of losing someone, but fear of being fully known and then judged, rejected, pitied, controlled, or quietly abandoned once your rough edges become visible. Many people do not fear love itself. They fear what love might reveal about how unready, needy, tender, angry, lonely, or hungry they still feel inside. And shame is sneaky because it does not say, I am scared. It says, this is stupid, this is too much, this person is not right, I need to leave. That is why people can sabotage something beautiful without understanding their own reasons. They start focusing on tiny flaws. They go cold over something small. They convince themselves that the timing is wrong, the spark is gone, or the other person wants too much. Sometimes there really are problems, of course, but sometimes the speed of the retreat tells the deeper story. Their system is not responding to what is happening now. It is responding to what closeness once cost them, and it would rather lose a good thing early than risk being hurt deeply later. There is also the fear of depending on someone. For a person who had to become strong too early, need can feel humiliating. Wanting someone back, missing them, caring what they think, or feeling hurt by distance can all feel like losing control. So they keep one foot near the exit. They may call it independence, but often it is protection that became an identity. They do not just want freedom, they need escape routes. Not because they are heartless, but because relying on another person once felt like a setup for pain. You can hear this fear in the things people say. I do not want drama. I just need space. I am better on my own. I do not like labels. I do not want anyone to have power over me. Sometimes those words are honest and healthy, but sometimes they are walls built from old injuries, sentences that sound grown and calm while hiding a younger fear underneath. And the younger fear is often this simple. If I let you matter, you can hurt me in a place I worked very hard to protect. Turn on notifications. Some truths arrive right when your old patterns are about to repeat themselves. Do not miss the moment your own story starts making more sense. Keep your heart awake. What you understand, you can begin to change. Another reason deep connection terrifies some people is that it removes the safety of fantasy. When love stays distant, vague, almost there, or half-built, you can imagine anything. You can stay powerful in your own mind. You can fill the gaps with hope. But once connection becomes real, there are actual needs, actual timing, actual feelings, actual misunderstandings, and actual risk. The dream turns into a living thing that can breathe or break. For someone who feels safest in control, fantasy feels easier than reality because fantasy asks for nothing and exposes nothing. That is why some people chase unavailable people. Distance feels painful, but it also feels familiar. It lets them stay hungry without having to surrender the deeper defenses that real closeness would challenge. They can ache, long, imagine, wait, replay, and obsess, all while avoiding the more frightening task of letting a healthy person truly know them day after day. Sometimes the heart says, I want love, while the pattern says only if love stays just far enough away to feel safe. If you have lived this pattern, please hear this without shame. Your reaction is not random. It is not proof that you are doomed, too much, impossible, or broken beyond repair. It is often the result of a nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do. The problem is not that your system learned protection. The problem is that it kept using old rules in new rooms, even after those rules stopped helping you feel alive. What once protected your heart may now be the very thing keeping it lonely, and loneliness can hide inside a very capable life. A person can look strong, successful, funny, calm, attractive, and fully put together while still feeling panic when someone offers real warmth with no hidden price attached. That is because healing is not measured by how well you perform in public. It is measured by what happens in the quiet moments when closeness reaches for you and your body must decide whether to stay or run. That decision often tells the truth more clearly than any confident image ever could. The fear also grows when connection starts touching old grief. Deep closeness does not only bring joy, it can also wake up everything you never received, everything you had to bury, and every moment you needed tenderness but got distance instead. So when a kind person enters your life, you may not just feel the sweetness of the present, you may also feel the ache of the past rushing up to meet it. And that mix can be overwhelming. because your heart is not only meeting them, it is meeting all your unfinished pain too. Comment your thoughts below. Your voice matters more than your silence ever did. Sometimes naming the pattern is the first honest step out of it. I read every word, and someone else may feel less alone because you spoke. If this fear lives in you, it may show up in ways you barely notice at first. You may feel bored when someone is consistent because chaos once felt more alive. You may lose interest after intimacy because intensity is easier for your body to recognize than safety. You may read calm love as flat love, not because it is empty, but because your nervous system got used to confusion, guessing, chasing, and proving as signs that something mattered. What feels peaceful to one person can feel strangely unreal to another, until healing teaches the body a different language. You may also test people without meaning to. You may go quiet to see if they chase. You may pull away to see if they stay. You may hide your real feelings and hope they somehow sense them anyway. That does not make you manipulative in some evil way. Often it means a wounded part of you still does not trust direct need, so it searches for proof without risking full honesty. But hidden tests create hidden pain, because the very closeness you want cannot grow clearly in a room full of silent fear. Sometimes the fear becomes overthinking. You replay every word, every delay, every shift in tone, every tiny sign trying to protect yourself from surprise by predicting the future before it arrives. Your mind starts working overtime because uncertainty feels unbearable. But the strange thing is that deep connection always includes uncertainty. That is part of what makes it real. Control can reduce risk for a moment, but it cannot build intimacy. Intimacy needs honesty more than control. Other times the fear becomes numbness. You feel yourself shut down right when things get tender. You cannot find the words. Your body feels heavy. Your feelings go blurry. You want to care, but it is like a door inside you quietly closes. This is not always a lack of love. Sometimes it is overload. Sometimes your system is hitting the brakes because being open feels too intense to process in the moment. What looks like coldness can be a nervous system freezing in plain sight. Change starts with one very honest idea. You do not need to force yourself into closeness before you are ready, but you do need to stop calling your fear wisdom every time it tells you to run. Not every warning is intuition. Some warnings are memories wearing the mask of instinct. They feel true because they are familiar, not because they are accurate in the present. Learning the difference is one of the most powerful emotional skills a person can build. Share this with someone who acts strong but feels broken inside. A lot of people are carrying this fear in silence and calling it personality. This message may be the first thing that helps them feel real and understood. So what helps? First, slow down enough to notice what your body does when someone gets close. Not just what your mind says, but what your chest, stomach, throat, and breath do in those moments. The body often tells the truth before the story begins. Tightness, restlessness, numbness, irritation, sudden doubt, or the urge to escape can all be signs that old fear has entered the room. If you miss the body, the mind will usually invent a fast explanation and call it fact. Second, get curious instead of cruel. When fear shows up, many people attack themselves for being difficult, needy, avoidant, weak, dramatic, or impossible to love. That only adds more shame to an already frightened system. Try a different voice, something softer, something like, "This makes sense. Some part of me is scared, and I do not need to punish myself for having a history." Compassion does not erase patterns overnight, but it creates the inner safety that change needs in order to begin. Third, practice small doses of honest connection, not giant promises, not emotional flooding, just small, brave moments where you tell the truth a little more clearly than usual and stay present long enough to survive being seen. Maybe you say, "I like talking to you and that scares me." Maybe you say, "I need a little reassurance," instead of pretending you do not care. Maybe you say, "I shut down when things get close." These are not dramatic lines, they are doorways, and doorways matter more than grand speeches. Fourth, learn that safety is not the same as intensity. Many people feel most drawn to what makes them anxious because anxiety can feel exciting, alive, electric, and familiar. But familiar is not always healthy, and strong chemistry is not always a safe home. Sometimes the most honest love enters quietly. It does not hook you with chaos. It gives you room to breathe, room to think, room to stay yourself while getting close. That may feel strange at first, but strange is not always wrong. Sometimes strange is just new safety. If you love someone who fears deep connection, this matters for you too. You cannot heal their pattern by chasing harder, proving more, or shrinking your own needs until you become easy to hold. That path only leaves two wounded people standing in the same room. What helps is warmth with boundaries, patience with clarity, and enough self-respect to stop confusing someone's fear with your responsibility to rescue them. Love can support growth, but it cannot do another person's inner work for them. That means you can be gentle without abandoning yourself. You can say, I care about you and I also need honesty. You can say, I understand fear, but I will not build a whole relationship alone. You can stay calm when they wobble without turning your own heart into a waiting room where your needs are always postponed. Real compassion includes you too. When your self-respect stays awake, love becomes clearer, cleaner, and more true. And if you are the one who fears closeness, healing does not mean becoming fearless overnight. It means learning to stay a little longer in moments that used to send you running. It means letting your body discover that being known does not always end in pain. It means noticing the urge to shut down, then choosing one small act of honesty anyway. It means learning that freedom is not always leaving. Sometimes freedom is finally being able to remain. That kind of growth is quiet, but it changes everything. Healing also means grieving the old story. You may have to admit that what shaped you was painful, unfair, confusing, or lonely. You may have to feel anger for what was missing, and sadness for how long you thought distance was the safest version of love. This grief is not weakness, it is movement. It is frozen truth becoming alive enough to be felt, and felt enough to be released. The more honest you become with your pain, the less power it has to secretly run your relationships from the dark. Bookmark this video. Some messages become even more true after you sit with them for a night. Come back when your heart needs a calmer voice than fear. Stay connected. More truth is on the way. At the deepest level, many people are not only afraid of connection, they are afraid of what connection asks them to believe. That they are worth staying with. That they can be loved without earning every drop of care. That being soft does not make them weak. That they do not need to disappear into competence, humor, charm, beauty, or service just to deserve closeness. For some people, that belief feels almost too tender to hold. So they reject love before love can reject them and call that control. But control has a lonely price. It can keep you safe from some pain, yes, but it can also keep you far from the kind of real, awake, honest bond that lets you feel fully alive in your own life. And after a while, the absence of deep connection starts to hurt in its own quiet way. Not dramatic, not loud, just a steady ache that follows you home at night. The heart knows when it is surviving instead of living. It may stay silent for years, but it knows. Here is the truth waiting underneath all of this. The fear of deep connection is rarely a sign that you do not want love. Very often it is proof that love matters enough to touch places in you that still need care. Your terror may be protecting your tenderness. Your distance may be guarding your hope. Your numbness may be a cover over a very human hunger to be met in a real way. Once you see that, you stop treating yourself like the enemy and start understanding what your inner world has been trying to protect. And that is where self-respect begins. Not in pretending you are above need, not in acting unbothered, not in calling detachment power, but in telling yourself the truth with kindness. You can be scared and still be honest. You can be triggered and still choose not to run blindly. You can feel old pain rise and still build something new with steady steps. That is strength, quiet strength, the kind that does not perform, only grows. Maybe one day someone will look at you with that same gentle, steady warmth, and this time your first instinct will still be fear. But fear will not get the final word, because you will know what it is, where it came from, and why it used to speak so loudly inside you. You will breathe, stay present, and let yourself feel the difference between old danger and new care. You will not need perfection. You will only need honesty. And in that honest moment, you may discover that what once terrified you is also what can help set you free. The real goal was never to become untouchable. It was to become safe enough inside yourself that love no longer feels like a trap, but a choice you can enter with open eyes and a steady heart. When that happens, connection stops feeling like something that will swallow you and starts feeling like a place where more of the real you can come alive. If one person in this video reminded you of yourself, share it with them. Subscribe for more videos that speak the truth you need to hear.